There's a couple of things that you need to know about. First of all, Donald Trump jacked up the threats on Monday and then again yesterday. Says he's going to skip at least the first Republican debate because it's Fox News. And I agree with him, quite honestly. I think these guys should stop doing these debates with the mainstream media. I mean, oh boy, Stu's looking at me skeptically.
Yeah, I'm curious. I mean, look, I don't think Fox's news coverage is perfect by any means, but certainly it's more friendly than the mainstream media as a whole. We're just including Fox News and mainstream media now. Is that kind of where you're going with this?
Mm.
I mean,
kind of.
Sometimes that feels that way. I don't think that's always the case.
I think they are way off course from where they used to be. And now now it's just I kind of don't trust them. You know, when Tucker was there, I knew Tucker was fighting the inside and the outside. And now, I mean, who do you really trust over there? Brett Baer? I mean, he's a nice guy. I really like him, but really?
He does
Karl Rove?
I mean, for Karl Rove, Brett Baer is a straight news journalist, so I think does certainly. I mean, maybe not comparing him to whatever your ideal Fox is, but like compare him to NBC News coverage. I mean, I take Brett Baer 1,000 times in a row.
Yeah, I would too. But you don't have to settle for that now anymore.
No. So what's your vision of a debate then?
Sources.
Who's doing this?
Oh, I would take the Daily Wire. I would take the Blaze.
So something
who else?
I do think that what you're talking about here, because obviously, somewhat that's self-serving, right? We work for the Blaze, right? We certainly like the Daily Wire. There's a lot of outlets like that. But what I think is interesting,
I would put Glenn Greenwald and I would build a panel of people that are going to ask honest questions.
Yeah.
I want honest questions. I don't want gotcha questions. I don't want questions coming from any one point of view. I want people who will ask the honest question. I'll ask tough questions. Tucker would ask tough questions. Glenn Greenwald would ask tough questions. Ben Shapiro would.
Yeah, and sometimes Fox has done a good job with that in previous debates, sometimes. But I would say, like, one of the things that's most interesting to me about your idea here is that what we get out of mainstream media are questions that would theoretically interest their audience. And often that question is, something like, hey, did you really rape E. Jean Carroll at Bergdorf's in 1985? And it's like, all right, like, I get that's what, Rachel Maddow's audience probably does want to hear. They probably do want to hear about that. But like, I would like to hear much more, I would like to hear from Donald Trump, hey, you're talking a lot about, beating the deep state, right? And how important that is, one of your main justifications for running. Well, if you're out of office right now, right, and you're saying this election was stolen from you, why didn't you see any of this coming? Why didn't you stop it? Why didn't you do something when you had the power to do it, right? Like, that's a question that, I think that's something that, would be a real question of, how he's going to govern. What did he miss? Did he miss something? Did he just put bad people in control? If so, why? There's a lot of questions there about Donald Trump's presidency that might be interesting to a conservative trying to decipher between two conservatives. What we get from the mainstream media is this pitch of why Donald Trump is so evil and why you should pick Joe Biden over him. And I think there's very little value in a primary for that.
So here's what because I asked Donald Trump that question, and I don't know if it was publicly or privately, but I said, deep state, how did that happen? And he said, I knew there was powerful forces. He said, I had absolutely no idea how deep it went, but I do now. I think that was a reasonable answer.
It's a reasonable answer, but I think it's fair to worry about that.
Oh, I do too.
If you're putting someone back into office who missed it last time, I think that's a question. And I think the same question to go, and I'm not saying this to beat up on Trump. He's just the one that everyone knows their story better. I mean, like, you could ask the same question about Ron DeSantis. You know, DeSantis is coming in. He's never dealt with the Washington people like this. Obviously, he was a congressman. But, you know, is he going to be able to perform in the situation? It's a legitimate question. Ask him about, you know, a lot of people are uncomfortable with how he's using his power in the state, you know, as maybe it's too top down, right, for a conservative audience. Let's go back and forth and hear from another candidate who says, you know what, maybe you're doing too much from the governor's mansion. These are just examples. You're not saying what right or wrong there, but like, how do you decipher between two conservatives has nothing to do with whether Donald Trump kept documents. Like, I don't care about that. That means nothing to me as it regards to going to try to pick somebody in a primary.
Well, I have a feeling that the left feels the same way about those documents. You remember, somehow or another, this recording was leaked. Wow. There's so many leaks. None, apparently, on the left that we should either listen to or take credible. But so many leaks on Donald Trump. The whole leak was him talking about a plan, apparently, with Iran. And he had the document. And those were one of the, they took those documents away from him because he was being irresponsible with them. Well, guess what wasn't with the documents, and guess what wasn't even listed when they charged him? That document. So, wait, we've been arguing about a conversation he had where he said he was holding up a magazine, and they don't even have the document. I mean, I would say
amazing,
highly unlikely if they had the document and he had the document, he'd reach over and grab it and say, look at this. But if the document doesn't exist, at least in the file, then you have to go to he shred it, which is now a conspiracy theorist, or what? Yeah. Why are we arguing over this?
It's stupid. I mean, and I think, too, this is a situation where it's not like we don't have the murder weapon. We don't have the body, right? Like, we have no idea if he actually killed someone in this murder case. The document, if the document doesn't exist, who knows? Maybe that again is your conspiracy theory. You're like, you think maybe he shredded it. But if you don't have any evidence of that, what do you have here? Again, this story, I think, is just nonsensical. It's got nothing to do with the future of the country. Nothing. This is just a sideshow. Yet another attempt to throw Donald Trump out of office. What you could do to get him out of office, which is just beat him, right? If you're a Democrat and you don't want Donald Trump to be president, then win. You don't need to. They keep trying to do this by some other means, and they, go down these roads. Do the American people care if the president, who literally was given this document in office to see it, instead of having it in front of him, just remembers the details? That's what we're talking about. He would know about this document anyway. He could tell people about it anyway. The question is, does he have it in his possession or not? That's really what we're going to determine the future of this country on. It's just stupid.
By the way, Chip Roy, who we're trying to get on, Chip Roy has come out and said that a number of Republicans don't believe Department of Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas should be impeached over his handling of the border. May I ask, how low is the bar for unemployment or employment at the Biden administration? Because it seems like everyone can keep their job and they're all doing fine. What's her name? The White House press secretary. She's awful. She's awful. She's either reading from a book. Why don't you just Xerox the book and just hand it to all the reporters? If you're going to read all of the answers, they got them there. They can just flip to page 9. That's all she should say. Flip to page 9. That answer is on page 12. Yeah, I'm not going any further than that. She's awful. Yet everybody seems to love her. Mayorkas. What does the guy have to do? Does he have to start driving drug cartel members across the border and and have him sleep in the White House before we care? What?
No way that would be enough to get him out. He would remain no matter what, which is incredible. By the way, Glenn, one update on the border situation. You know, the whole DeSantis flying people into Martha's Vineyard. It was the worst thing any governor had ever done in history, and we were all told about all these awful things. Now there's a new story in the New York Times that the people who did stay, which was a small percentage of them, they booted most of them out immediately, but the people who did stay really enjoying Martha's Vineyard. They've built a nice life there, really liking it. They can't believe it.
This is news?
This is news? Martha's Vineyard's really nice. It's why all of our presidents build houses there.
Really are. Wow, they just dropped me in, one of the greatest vacation paradises of all time, at least in America, and I like it.
Yeah.
Oh, get that on the front page.
That's what they're doing.
It's not a surprise.
It's not a surprise.
Oh my gosh.
However, it should be a surprise to anyone who reads the New York Times, who were told this was one of the worst things the governor has ever done. And they're making it seem like, oh, well, they put it in the face of Ron DeSantis by enjoying their time in Martha's Vineyard. I don't know. Was DeSantis trying to punish them by putting them there? He was trying to point out, hey, the burden can't be held by only southern states. And while, these people, of course, are going to enjoy it there. There's no question about it. I think this is a great policy for everybody.
Yeah, you want to punish somebody, you clearly send them to Philadelphia or Washington, D.C. Martha's Vineyard is not a punishment.